In the second part of this training, we're going to create a rack layout for this dynamic property view. So we have a couple of elements here. So 2 playout servers, 2 Arista switches, and then some elastic nodes which are grouped in a view and also used in a service representing the cluster. Okay, so first step again is adding a new Visio. Okay, so let's open up this up in Visio. For this one, I'm going to remove the gray background, and then I'm going to use a dedicated stencil. You can find lots of stencils on sites like Visio Cafe from lots of different vendors. So this is just one created by Dell for some racks. So I'm gonna drag a rack onto my view. Okay, and then I'm just gonna use Control Drag, and these have some glue points in the stencil, so you can easily move them around and align them properly. Okay, so we have 4 racks here. So that's our basic layout. Okay, we have our layout set up. Now I'll add again 2 simple squares from the basic shapes to use as reference shapes. So I'm gonna scale this down a bit, zoom in here. Okay, so it's centered, and I'm going to resize it to be about the same size as one of these rack units. Okay, and just put it in the center. Again, we add our shape data. Ooh, that's a wrong button here. So define shape data. Again, we're gonna add our XPath and YPath. In this case, we need both XPath. No, that's not right. YPath. Okay. So this is our reference shape, and this is rack 1, position 1. Okay. Zoom out. I'm gonna duplicate it. Ooh. Okay, and move it to the top of the second rack. Let's check the positioning here. Okay, it's not fully centered yet. Make sure to grab our square and center it nicely. Okay, that should do. Alright, let's save this one, take a quick look in DataMiner. Okay, we have our racks, no devices yet. Right, so for the devices, I'm going to create some custom shapes, and I'm just going to make it really simple with 2 rectangles, just really small one that I'm going to use to display the alarm later, and then a bigger one. Okay, I'm gonna group these. Okay, and then rescale them to be 1 unit height. Okay, zoom in a little here. That higher. Okay, and apparently something went wrong with my grouping. Okay, so let's just retry that. Stick them together, check the alignment. Okay, group. Alright, that's looking a lot better. Maybe just a little tweaking here. Sure. Okay, now if I move my group into rack, still somewhat oversized. And to reduce it a little. Okay, so this is my first device. I'm going to again add a wildcard to show some information. Okay, now we'll add some shape data to our shape that will be representing our devices. Define shape data. Okay, so again we have XPOS and YPOS. This time we'll need both of them because the properties are stored in two separate properties, so we'll need to link them individually instead of to a single table. Okay, then we also want to link this to an element, of course, and we would also like to show some info. Okay, so now we'll use some wildcards to link this to properties. Property column rack number. Okay, for the Y position we'll use the rack position. Here you can either link each shape to an individual element, but you can also use the very handy auto wildcard or placeholder, in fact, that will generate a shape automatically for each element contained in the view. And as info we want to show our element name. Okay, let's save this and take a look in DataMiner. Alright, so we have our playout servers and our two Arista switches. Now, if you have any experience with Arista switches, you will know these are not one-unit devices, and we've also added some property to indicate that. So if we go and check our properties, we'll see unit height is 4 units. So let's go back to our Visio to fix this. Okay, close it and reopen. Alright, so I'm just going to make a copy of my shape here, and we're going to need to scale that up to 4 units. So I'm going to put it back on rack. Entry size to 4 units. Just place this outside of the visible area again. So now both of these shapes have the same shape data, and we'll need some way to tell the visual overview engine to show the 4 units in case of the Arista devices. So we'll add some additional shape data called show. Okay, and then on the show we'll add a condition for each of our shapes. So you can find details on the condition layout and the DataMiner help. So condition A is meeting with property unit height and it should be equal to for you. Okay, gonna copy paste this one. Okay, add it to the show of the 1 unit element. Okay, change that to 1U. Save the Visio. Okay, and you'll see now that we have some really big arista here, and they are, as you can see, moving out of our rack. The reason they are not in the position we are expecting is, as I told you earlier, it's always using the center of the shape. So in this case, the center of our shape and position 1 is matched with the reference shape, also at position 1, which is here somewhere in the middle. But as these units are 4 units in height, the center will cause them to be displayed out of the rack. So we can fix this. We go back to our Visio and we'll need an additional shape data for this. Add a new one and let's use the Y-pos offset. Okay, and as value, so we want it to move up by 2. Let's see what that does. Okay, save the Visio. Right, so it's a little bit over here. So I'm going to use 1.5. That should do it. The reason I need 1.5, not 2, is that in fact the center of our reference shape is also the center of the first units in the rack. So we'll need to compensate for that. Okay, let's make this 1.5. Right, save. Right, and we have our 2 arista units nicely fitting in our rack. Let's take a quick look at the properties. So first one is at position 1 and the second one is at position 5. Maybe these are switches, so we'll need some space in between them for the cabling. Gonna move this up 1 unit, and as you can see, same as with the data in tables, it's immediately applied in our drawing. So now we have our devices in our overview, but we still have some to do. We still have our elastic nodes, our view, and our elastic cluster service. So it may not make much sense to add a service or a view into a rack view like this, but it can be useful in other applications. So we'll go back to our Visio, close the window, edit in Visio. Okay, so I'm gonna copy our 1 rack unit here. Okay, and then once more. Okay, so we're no longer going to link this to an element, we're going to link this to a view. So let's go into our shape data, and instead of elements, we rename it to view, and that should do it. All right, and then for our service, this is a bit of a special case. So our service also has, as you may know, a DMA ID and an element ID. So we can just leave the element indication here, but we'll need to check our properties for the service. So going into properties on the service, and you can see that here we are using different names for our properties. We're using rec number service and rec position service. So let's also add that to our Visio. Okay. Save. Okay, update coming in. Now go back to edit. Okay, so our view will leave as it is. And for our service, we'll change the name of the properties. Okay. Save it. It's updating. Okay, let's check the view properties. Okay, it has no rec position yet, so we'll add it. Okay, and then another one for the rec number. Okay, so we're gonna put this in rec number 2 position 1. Okay. It's not showing up yet. Take another look in Visio. So our view shape. Okay, we also don't have the unit height property, so I'm going to just make this show true. And save. Alright, so we have our view there, and then we still have to change our info to be displaying the view name. Alright, so in fact for a view it's just name. Okay, and then our service also has the unit height. So I'm just gonna change this to true. So repository, okay, this should work. And our service is not showing up yet. Let's check the properties. So it's also on rec position 1, so they are overwriting each other. Let's change this. Okay, and so now we also have our elastic cluster visible. Okay, so now we have one thing left to do to complete our overview of in our rec view here, and that is to add these elastic nodes. As you can see, they are not displayed yet, and that is because they are in a subview. So let's go back into our Visio file. And we're going to make a small change on the device settings, and instead of the auto, we're going to use auto colon include subviews. Subviews and save. It might be unit height. Okay, we're still not seeing them. So let's check out what's wrong. Take a look at properties. Okay, so these are storage servers, of course, which are 2 units in height. So they are kicked out by our filter. Let's go back into Visio. Gonna duplicate this shape once more. Resize it. I think that should be about right. Yes. Okay. Let's move the entire group, not just the subshape. Okay, and then we're going to change the filter to 2 units for this one. Gonna save. Okay, and we see 2 of our elastic nodes. Again, we have the problem that we should adjust the Y position. So, close. Y-pos offset. Data. You are again going to add a Y-pos offset. And I think for 2 units we will need 0.5. Okay, let's save. Alright, so now our elastic nodes are nicely positioned in our racks, and for some reason we're not seeing elastic node 3. Let's go and check the properties. It's on rack position 3, so it's completely hidden. Let's make that position 5, and as you can see, whenever you're updating a property, it's also immediately reflected in the visual overview. Okay, so now our nodes are hiding our server, our service and view. So we go into the properties on those again, and we're going to change the rack position. Let's make this a 7. Okay, so it's popping up right there. And then also for the view properties, let's put this one on 9. Okay, so also dynamically popping up again. And then also for properties we can do the same thing, so we can again arrange. So if you move some devices from one position to another, let's say we move our playout server into rack 3. Okay, we apply, and then we go check out the properties of our playout server number 2. And you'll see that the rack position has updated to position 17 and the rack number has updated to rack number 3. Okay, that is the end of the basic training on dynamic positioning and visual overviews.